Welcome everybody and welcome to the Sonic Visions online sessions. Today with the discussion, Tomorrow is Built Today, the needs of artists and the future formats of music conferences and showcase festivals. My name is Max and I'm honored to be the host today, and I'm joined by a panel of amazing people from the music industry, artists, promoters, bookers, and we're going to be jumping directly in and presenting the first one, which is Jana. Hello, Jana. If you can tell something a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and maybe tell us, did this whole pandemic and the lockdown release something in you personally, some new experiences, or did it just pass by?
So I primarily in music write for a band called Francis of Delirium, and we make indie rock music. But then I've also been starting to songwrite with other artists in Luxembourg who do pop music, and have been kind of moving into that space a little bit more. Yeah, I think the pandemic definitely affected me. Well, mainly just because I feel like there was just so much time, like stasis time, where I did nothing at all. And I think it just kind of impacted how creative I was able to be. I mean, we released 2 EPs during the pandemic, but then after that, I was kind of like, oh, I've done nothing all year. I don't know what to write about anymore.
Did you have stress, or did you stress yourself because you couldn't write anymore, or how did it affect you? And how do you feel today?
Well, I think it was mainly because we weren't able to play shows. Like, I get a lot of creative energy from playing shows and kind of seeing how the audience is responding to the songs that we've written. And like when I was constantly checking when they were saying shows were going to return and like the date kept being pushed and pushed, it was a little bit mildly devastating, I would say.
It's exactly what we're talking about today. So thank you very much for your introduction. Let's switch over to Andras. Can you talk a little bit about yourself? Tell us who you are, what you do, and how do you feel right now?
Sure. Hi, so my name is Andras and I'm the artistic director of MENT Ljubljana, which is a festival, a showcase festival, a city festival in Ljubljana, Slovenia. We've just done the 7th edition in June. The festival is usually held in February, but this year, due to known reasons, we had to move it and we had to make it a bit different. So much more domestic, less international. And usually we have 3 days with 80 artists. This time it was 30 artists in 9 days. So it was possible for us to go with all the restrictions and everything. So that was quite a challenge. So my feelings at the moment are just being tired. I'm not sure if it's from festival or vaccination or the heat in Ljubljana, because it's 36 degrees outside.
Oh.
But yeah, state of where we are at the moment, I think it showed how fragile our business is actually. So the live industry is really not appreciated enough, and it's really not a stable business. A lot of people I know already went to work in other positions, in other fields. And it's sad to see that it's very hard to survive, and it's just been a year and a half now, or even less. And you can already see like how much it affects the whole situation. And I'm really afraid what will happen in the future, because it's not very bright at the moment, even though it's summer and it's a bit easier to live.
We'll touch on that a little bit later. Thank you very much for your first impressions. Let's move on to Geraldine. Geraldine, if you could present yourself a little bit, tell us what you do, and how did the pandemic touch you? Did it leave something? Where you're at right now? How do you feel?
Thank you. So my name is Geraldine. I am a French national based in the UK at the moment. I am the founder and director of Compass Music, which is a global music consultancy that I started 2 years ago this month. And what I do with Compass Music is I help different kind of music companies, music events, artists to develop internationally. in regards to the pandemic, I think I had kind of the double whammy. I work in music and I work in international, so definitely two areas where it was really difficult. I used to work with a lot of festivals on like the international delegation and program, and all of that work got cancelled, so that was tough. But I think it was about being resilient and trying to find new ways to do things, new timelines, getting more into online events, which, you know, to me, I'm a live music person at heart, so will never be the same. But I think we discovered new ways to interact and exchange, and I was really impressed by the resilience of our own industry, through and through it, from any sector. So that was good. And I guess my turn during the pandemic was because I had kind of more time to think about my project and my business. I kind of looked inward and I decided to work on a new project that I'm launching soon, which is going to be a members only platform and marketplace for music industry professionals to exchange and learn about new markets worldwide online. So that's kind of my switch, but I still pretty much believe that we'll be able to go back to live music soon, because I think it's really important for our industry to like meet with other humans in a venue. There's nothing beats it for the artist, for the fan, for the crew, for everyone really.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Geraldine. Next up is Paul. Paul, why don't you, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you feel right now with the whole situation?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Paul. I've been basically working as a booker or a promoter in Luxembourg for the last almost 13 years at various venues, and the last 6 at the Rock Hall, where I work now. In terms of the pandemic affecting me, which is part of the question, I actually had COVID last year. Not to like, I'm not proud of it, but that was something that I suffered through as well. Like I experienced it, and some people it affects in different ways. I had it. It was all right, but it definitely affects different people in more meaningful ways, or you know, especially in our industry where for 9 months, for example, we've had some people that have not just been without work, but not been able to do their job, which I think is a big part of the, you know, the struggle that people have had to deal with, where, you know, they want to work, but the thing that they have been doing for the last 10, 20, 30 years, they're unable to do because events aren't possible. And by this, I mean people, you know, crews, rigging, even mixing engineers who solely work in the live domain. They've been stripped of like their, their, you know, their usual life. And that's been especially difficult to witness, especially because a big part of our job is essentially in the live events domain. And we haven't, apart from some test concerts that we did and some smaller events that we've done over the past 18 months, like our main hall, like our big room, has been pretty much vacant for the past 18 months plus, since the start of the pandemic. And that has been weird to witness, I will say this. So I'm starting to feel better because I'm vaccinated now. I'm seeing that more people have been vaccinated. Slowly we're getting back to something that we can maybe call normal in the next 6 months, but I still feel that we're a little ways off. So that's how I feel right now.
Okay, let's stay strong and we continue. There's nothing else to do, right?
Yeah.
Zach, what about you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how the pandemic affected you, your work? What do you take from it?
Sure. My name is Zach Levin. I'm the pop and rock project manager of the newly formed Arts Council of Luxembourg called Culture Alix. So Culture Alix was established last year as a tool for the support, promotion, and development of the Luxembourgish cultural sector, and as a means of synergizing the various cultural players here in the country. So we integrated officially in January the work that we were doing at the former export office Music LX. So it's really more of a continuation and an exciting next step for the sector here. Yeah, before Luxembourg, I was working in New York as a radio plugger for about 7 years, where I had the pleasure of working with a variety of artists, managers, labels, to strategically promote music to radio at the college and NPR level, to very like established acts on the commercial side. So yeah, I mean, of course, we can, like on the export side of things has been massively affected. Of course, like traditional showcases were not possible, which we can perhaps touch on later. But I guess on the personal side, definitely allowed me a lot of reflection. Perhaps one thing that comes to mind is just not to put off personal goals or perhaps dreams, and to do it now, not to wait. That could be anything from like I noticed I was really trying to get in shape. We had family calls every week, which is something that we never did before the pandemic. So it was kind of cool in that way. These new connections, I think, that were formed as a result. So
Awesome. Last but not least, we have Luca. Luca, tell us a little bit something about yourself, and did you take anything from the whole situation? Positive or negative?
Yes, for sure. I mean, good things have come out of it. So I run a small venue in Luxembourg, small club in the inner city of Luxembourg, and on the side of that I do some consulting in cultural projects, cultural project management. And for us, of course, being one of the last independent clubs in Luxembourg, at first there was this moment of panic, of course, also because we are on a really tight resource flow, I guess. We don't have big reserves. We don't have so the first weeks were a little scary. But then what we did was to try, talking about resilience, to really activate our community, basically. And that's a really good thing that came out of it, was that we noticed even more that we had a really strong community around us, who basically funded a big part of what we needed in the first months before the small help came in. So that worked pretty well. It went from crowdfunding to creating an online exhibition with an auction, to creating merch, stuff that we never had the time to do before, because being in a small company, we were really always, I don't know how you say it, chasing, running after the train, kind of, never being able of planning strategically, because we just had to look how to get the next show going and how to get the next drink delivery in, and so on. So that gave us some time. What was very stressful was were we gonna be able to keep the staff? Just like Andres said earlier, I mean, the risk of losing the people to other sectors or bigger and more and safer structures, was the big thing. So luckily we didn't lose anyone so far, and it was also a big part of what I decided was going to be my job, was to take care of the people and give them some kind of hope and perspectives, and have them stay active, also in their minds, not to kind of like sink into into nothingness. So that was what we did the first year, I guess. And then luckily a few weeks ago we had the chance of putting up a festival, like a small festival also, but it was just at the right moment. And so that was very good for the people again in the company to get going again, and have this moment of euphoria that they had forgotten what it was like before.
I was about to say, because to speak about something positive, you had like the first big open air event like 2 weeks ago. I think it was 450 people with like a COVID check, and it felt like 2 years ago. How was that?
Yeah, I mean, it was
how
very,
did you do it? Anyway.
it was very small, which was very nice because it's very stressless. You know, it's not the kind of capacities that we had been managing before. So it was really, it was a really easy game. You know, super easy for the whole staff. It was only positive. You know, it was a lot of joy. Loads of super happy people, loads of ecstatic musicians, you know, like telling us how they had like got new energy to get going again, blah, 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 seeing people dance, seeing people, yeah. So it was, yeah, that was really, really good for everyone involved and very stressless, very nice.
And congratulations on putting that off, definitely. I think, Jana, you also played there. How was the feeling?
It was incredible. It was like the best thing I've had in 2 years. Like even just from like a fan perspective, just getting to watch the other bands and like be around people, it was incredible.
But it was a very lucky hit, you know. It was really getting on the timing, you know. We didn't know when we started really planning it, remotely planning it. We didn't know that it would be the first weekend where you'd be even able to do it, you know. So yeah, we're really lucky. So that's it's a big part of it.
Congratulations anyway, because I mean, it was definitely a fest. Jana, you also, I mean, last year you had new stuff coming out. There were no shows to be played, but you played a lot of like online showcase festivals and stuff like that. Do you think, did it help you? Is it something that is maybe complementary to playing live shows? Is it something where you think is going to be staying?
Potentially. I think it was complementary in that we couldn't do something in person, but I don't know how. I think maybe panels like this could be held online, but I don't know how beneficial it would be to continue doing live stream shows. But I don't know, it's different, I guess, for different people. Like Dua Lipa had incredible success with her live stream thing that she put on. But I think especially for an artist that's growing, it's important for like new potential people who could be interested in your band to be seeing you live and really getting that personal connection. But in terms of maybe more businessy things, I think it can be beneficial to do that stuff online as well as in person.
Andras, what is your take on that? You had some live videos, but you said the festival is smaller. Do you see a hybrid somewhere along the way, or is your goal to be going back to a festival as you did it 2 years ago?
No, actually, we didn't have any videos this year. Like last year, we were lucky enough to have the festival right before the pandemic, like a month before. So that was pure luck. And this year, all we wanted to do was avoid live streaming or whatever. So this is why we decided on a more local edition. We still had bands from 5 or 6 countries, mostly neighboring countries. But yeah, our idea was like after a year of streams and videos, I think like everybody I know was sick of this and just couldn't stand watching at the screen all the time. But what we did in the time of the festival, we recorded sessions with most of the bands performing. So we kind of still made a part that will be available internationally. And that was the idea. This is why we extended the festival for 9 days, because we wanted to add like international value. And we decided on a like a very good filming team and like the whole concept around it. And all the artists recorded just one song because like it's my personal opinion, but I think like if it's an up and coming band, it doesn't make sense to record a whole show, because most of the people, if they get to listen to a new band, they will like maybe try one song. So let's just do one best song to show off the band and see what happens next. So this is how we saved it. And I would really like to keep the format alive for the future, in the sense of giving like extra content to the band And I think it's the most important part, like having live footage, because every promoter wants to see the band live, and if it's not possible live, then that's the next best thing. But I'm not a fan of live streaming at all. Yeah.
Geraldine, you worked also a lot in that field, and after this whole year and working with different clients, also live events with videos and streaming, what's your take on it? How do you see it now that there's a little bit of time in between what happened last year and all these online festivals and sessions?
As I said before, I think recreating the atmosphere and kind of the magic really that happened in a live music venue is very, very difficult online. But I think what this pandemic and the whole live stream everywhere made happen is that it was always necessary, especially for emerging bands, to have high quality footage of them playing live. And pre-pandemic, it was really, really hard to have it. Like I could count on, both my hands, the number of bands that had really good footage that they could showcase to other people. So I think in that respect, it had helped a lot of bands getting really high quality material that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. When it comes to live showcasing during an event and during an online event, I think it really depends how it's done. Not wanting to hoot our own trumpet, is that the thing? But I think what Musicalix and Zach and I did with Amplifylex last year was brilliant, because Unison Studios had created amazing quality footage that not only was, good sound, good live, but it was like cinematically interesting. And not everyone has Dua Lipa's, production budget. But this made all the difference. And I think there will always be an audience for it because people are curious for it. And, there's the question of accessibility and, some fans that live in like remote place, some fans that maybe have more accessibility problems getting to venue, whether it's transport, whether it's disability, like having this material available is good. Whether it will replace it, I don't think it ever will, and I don't hope it will ever will. I think the hybrid format was interesting. I think, it takes me a lot of time and budget, and it's not very good for the planet for me to go to Tokyo once a year. But if I can discover some good Japanese bands, and as Andras said, like I only need a couple of good songs. Like in live music showcases, you only get 15-20 minute live because it's only a showcase. You don't need to play, you're probably not good enough to have a good hour set. So just have 2 or 3 really great songs, and if you can nail that to make it just, to have your music discovered by people that otherwise wouldn't have, I think it's great. But for your fan, I agree with Jana. I think this personal connection, meeting the bands, getting your drumstick from your band, like talking, exchanging, having your merch signed, this is something that you can't recreate online.
Absolutely. Paul, we're sure we're never gonna switch live concerts to something online, but you guys at the Rock Hall also produced videos with a few bands. And what was the idea behind that? And also as a booker, do you feel it's important for every act, for emerging acts, that they have proper live videos so you can see the potential if you can't go to a showcase festival?
I'd say it's important either way, because as an artist, you have to be present on as many platforms as possible. Even if you don't like Twitter, having a Twitter account and you reach other audiences that way. Having video content sort of links together with other social networks and other things to sort of expand your reach. So I think it's vital, regardless, that artists or musicians, that they have videos online, be it live or music videos. What we decided to do during this pandemic was to look at sort of digital formats, especially with the Rock Lab, with 2 projects in particular, the Rock Lab sessions, which are done in our studios upstairs, and then pop-up sessions. And the idea was for the pop-up sessions, for example, was to present local artists in locations that normally they wouldn't be able to play, or maybe aren't, normal, well, audience wouldn't even be able to get there, or public don't usually get to go there, be it on rooftops, or we did a concert with Jana, Francis of Delirium, behind, like in our on like the backstage part between the club and the main hall on like the stairs, which is just something that no one has ever played there. So she's the only person, well, they're the only person they've ever played in that location, which is pretty cool. And having that kind of sticks out a bit more as well when you're looking at various videos. Oh, that location looks crazy, let's check that out. I mean, if we're not Cercle Cité sort of level, but it's still, it pops out. If a thumbnail looks cool, you're likely to maybe click on it and check it out, and then listen to a song or two and then see what's going on. So for me, it's very important to have that material. I come from a mainly kind of like rock metal background. It definitely does not replace like the live experience. You kind of need volume to sort of get that feeling. And while you can recreate that at home to some extent, your neighbors aren't, they're maybe not fan of your kind of music. So it's a bit more difficult, but it's not impossible. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. My neighbors, yeah.
Well, you got the guitar stacks behind you, so I guess you're.
Yeah, I can't, I can't turn them on.
Yeah. Zach, going further on this, do these videos, if there's video, do they need to be experimental? Do they need to be special to push the boundaries so that they get attention? So is it also maybe more like a creative outlet for the artists to be saying, hey, I'm not just going to do like a normal live show, but I'm going to create something special in video and use that also as a creative outlet?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think what's really important, at least from our end, is that what comes across on the video is replicating as much of that live experience as possible. Something like working with you guys for the Amplify LX event is what we really tried to accomplish by, for example, we only had one video camera following the artist. It really felt like a live performance. I think that's really important. Of course, having that creative feel is really great, but is it going to get them, booked to a festival? I don't know if it would really make the difference. Yeah, I mean, for us, it's been super helpful having these live videos again. Like, it's not something that we had in the past, and so approaching bookers for these festivals, like, so much more useful. Like, how do you get an artist booked for a festival if they've if the booker has never seen them perform live? Usually you're sending talking points for maybe press or media, but with these videos, it was actually like way easier, approaching.
Luca, besides working for having the good villain, you also work as a manager for an artist, namely Bartleby Delicate. How did you see the possibilities of promotion? You just also brought out a new EP beginning of the year. You did a few of these video shows. Is it a tool that you're going to be continuing to using? Do you see an interest, or is it for you just for the time being and then switch to live only?
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. But it definitely was a super good year to get all this material in your portfolio. And also as a booker, I mean, it's something that I really look for, and I've looked for before as well, before the pandemic. So it's super, super good. As Zach said, it's almost the best tool to promote, at least when you're targeting bookers. But then also it really depends on the artist, I guess. For Bartleby Delicate, I think that there is a whole, he's very strong on stage in his contact to the audience. So also getting back to what Jana said earlier, this whole magical part of being on stage a few meters away from someone it's a lot more important for some artists than for others. So let's see. I'm not sure if we're going to be heading or increasing in that direction, but for sure there is super good material that was created also for Amplify LX. So I'm super happy that we have those.
Okay. Generally speaking, and everybody can chop in, there's also like new forms of expression, online expression. I think about Travis Scott playing in Fortnite. So that was like a show in a 3D environment that was completely redone before. It's news outlets. It's not going to replace live music. But did you see anything where you guys were inspired by, or where you said, "Hey, this is something that is definitely going to continue in the future, and that can be complementary to live shows"? Zach, did you see anything that's, or Geraldine, yes, please.
I mean, I like a show, you know, as much as the next person. But to me, it was, and I like gaming, but it was a bit of like, you know, how far can we take it? And I think we took it far, and I'm not sure. I was talking to a festival, and they were having a partnership with a 3D animation studio in India that was going to rebuild a whole live festival for them. And I was like, that's cool. You can only make that happen because you have access of a lot of cheap labor Indian 3D animator, basically. And it's a one-time thing, and it's going to be really hard to compete with it with the same kind of budget. And I think if it allows, you know, maybe the gaming crowd who's not so much into live music to get into live music, it's a good thing. But I think it has a limit. Like I hope that this is not going to replace the concert element. I'm all for new technology. I think it's cool. You know, I look forward to trying a 3D headset and hologramming touching artists for once, you know, to try. But I'm kind of a bit fearful on that end, that because they really like it, they're going to push it so much further and forget that it's about the music principally and not about the gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
It's the equivalent. It's, you know, it's a 3D equivalent of Lady Gaga, you know, flying in a golden cage, or Taylor Swift across thing. It's cool to see once. That is it probably comfy for her? Not really. Does it, you know, bring something to the music? It's the show element, but to the music, I don't know. Maybe I'm old-fashioned a bit, but
yeah, I don't know if I agree on that, because I don't know, and I'm not a gamer, and I'm definitely not an expert, but I think time will show, you know, there's going to be market-driven evolution or not. You know, I think it's the same, like going back from Super Nintendo over to PlayStation and having cool music on Tony Hawk, you know, and it plays as it's complementary to, it's not replacing, I guess, but I think it can wake up some curiosity and create bridges if there's a demand, and if it shows that it's interesting for labels and so on to be present in another way. So I think time will tell. It's difficult to tell off, I think.
Absolutely. Jana, how do you see that as an artist? I think you also create parts of your music videos, you create them themselves with stop motion stuff. So you already do this creative work. Is it something that will interest you more? Maybe not like huge 3D space, but are you interested in new technologies about how you can push your music onto other platforms or use them?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I like there have been a couple of different artists that I think have done interesting things in that kind of supplement their music, like Kenny Beats, who produces like a lot of people in rap right now, has been doing these weekly Twitch streams where he kind of goes into the music. And then there's like this other smaller indie pop band called Magdalena Bay, who have like a really cool TikTok. And I'm not like, I go on TikTok maybe once a year, but they do it in like, I mean, they make these 30-second videos that must have taken them like a day to film, like, or even like a couple days to film and shoot and edit. And so there's so much high quality content being like produced quite regularly, but it still feels kind of artistic. And that's something that I appreciate, like people going behind the scenes in the artistic process and kind of using that to supplement the music that they make and their live shows. I think that's an interesting thing to explore. Even tour videos that are done in that kind of tell us a narrative are also really interesting. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to explore using like different platforms to kind of give your audience a bit of a look behind the curtains.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Paul, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add there that I think one of my concerns, I mean, I game as well, check out the headset, but I'm relatively old, so I'm 40, and so I grew up before the whole, you know, internet thing, and MySpace was a thing when I was a bit younger, or very much younger, and I feel that more and more, like, all these new platforms are great, but to some extent, they're sort of they're diluting what people might think is a live concert or what is a live event. If you see how kids, they react to TikTok videos, and the song that's being played is not related, they won't think of the artist. They might remember it at some point, but essentially it's, oh, it's that video. So if I talk to my nieces and I play them a song, and they'll say, oh, that's from that TikTok video. They don't think, oh, that's that artist that made this song and that brought out this album out, they're playing live later this year, and maybe that's something I want to see. Obviously, they're way too young. But it's sort of this interaction and this sort of, you know, thing that's sort of moving people away from this sense of like, what's the real value of a live show when music is essentially used as, you know, almost like a byproduct, like it supplements, say, TikTok videos or promotional stuff, which has always been the case. Like promotion videos, marketing videos have always been supplemented by music. But at some point, the sheer volume of like videos and stuff being produced, which is great because there's a lot of good stuff out there, but the actual music is being sort of moved more and more into this sort of background space of, you're not really sure, okay, who's playing this? Oh, that's a great track or not, because of that. You know, you get a bit lost in the sheer volume of content being created.
Continuing on that, I mean, Luca, Andras, Paul, when you're booking, are you also looking at followers, at how active are these people? Is that something that maybe also not that just is there, and even if you don't want to look at it too much and you want to focus on the music, that still you get a little bit like impressed if there's a lot of following, or do you see it valuable as a market tool? Luca?
I guess it depends on what I'm booking. I would say that there is events where I really don't care about that at all. I just care about how good the live performance is going to be, because I think of the people getting there anyway, not knowing anything about the artists and just needing to have their mind blown away. So that would be one kind of event. And then when I book stuff for the venue here, it's a very small venue, you know, so it's not at all to be compared with what Paul is booking or for sure Andras as well. But there, of course, I look a little bit. I look if there is a story to be told about what's going on. If there is some what the dynamics are of the public. If there is really some euphoria about it, or even if it's at a very small level, I can already imagine, if I don't know the artist firsthand, that they are kind of the kind of people that can leave a great impression, you know. And also, yeah, sometimes there's just artists where you notice that, okay, if you can do it, you're going to do it now, because it will never be possible anymore, you know. We had the case like this with Fontaines DC playing here in front of 100 people, or Quang Bing, you know, and it happened that then whoosh, you know, the train is gone, you know, forever and ever, you know. So yeah, the different situations and different, yeah.
Yeah. Andras, how do you see that? And also, what do you think that upcoming artists need to do nowadays to get onto a festival like yours?
Yeah, I think I'm in a lucky position where I don't have to look at the numbers, but we all see the numbers, of course. And I think they tell a story in the sense of, I don't know, we go through all the applications. So with my with just another member actually, but what you see sometimes is like there might be a hit that has like a lot of views on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. But then if you see that the number is decreasing for all the other songs, it might mean that that all the other songs are different or not so successful. And then it's like it gives you a hint, like maybe go into more details afterwards. So or maybe the band was hyped a few years ago and now they're somewhere else in another place, or sometimes it means there was a big change in the sound or whatever. So the numbers definitely tell a story, and if the numbers are very very low, they also tell a story of band or an artist maybe not like even trying to promote their stuff, or maybe just they're very fresh or whatever. It never influences our booking because we're a showcase festival, so the point of our festival is to promote new bands as well. But you get a lot of information with this, and sometimes I'm really impressed, like unknown bands that actually have big numbers, but they're still like on a small level in the terms of concerts or like the audience, and they're still trying to get the word out there. In the other sense, like in the other cases, yeah, like maybe the band is very hyped, but the numbers are not that big, which happens nowadays, I think, to a lot of UK bands that are very hyped in their music media, but the numbers are not something to brag about. So, but it doesn't actually influence the bookings for the festival. It depends if you're booking for somewhere else. So.
Let's develop a little bit on the showcase festivals, because for the last 2 years, newcomer bands couldn't play any showcase festivals. I mean, 1.5 years. So the bands that brought out stuff 1.5 years or 2 years ago will only be touring that now. What's happening with all them that came up right now? Is there going to be more place at festivals? Will it develop, and how will it affect bands and artists that have been working and couldn't play shows the last 2 years? Andras, if you have a take on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's a good question, especially for the big festivals that are just like taking the lineup to the next year. So some of the festivals I'm aware of,
2 years.
they're doing the 2020 lineup in 2022 now, which means there's a 2 year gap for all these artists. On the other side, you have like Hellfest that announced like additional days with more and more and more bands. So it's gonna be like a super festival for all the metal heads out there. But in the terms of the showcase festivals, yeah, I think there's a lot of showcase festivals nowadays, and I think like every band will get the opportunity if there's a market or if there's an audience for them. So like the showcase festivals definitely are not the only way to bigger audience or the next step in the career, but I think you can definitely use them in your advantage, even in the times of pandemic. So if I go back to the previous question, definitely I think my live streaming or video on demand timing with concerts kind of finished in January, because before that, like I went to every digital conference, every digital like live stream or anything. But in January, Eurosonic happened, and they were still able to put on, I don't know, maybe it was 200 bands. They made like 4 stages and everything worked very well. And as a booker, I saw all the bands in the end. So usually I go to Eurosonic, I see maybe 10, 15 bands in 3 days. Now I was able to see 200, which was like, for my job, that was a dream come true in a sense. Of course, I would prefer to see them live, but yeah, this kind of situation works very well. But I think if there's too many of it, like it loses its sense. So if everybody will produce the same amount, like videos for all the bands and all the festivals will suddenly be online video on demands, it will lose the magic, the sense, and the attention. So
Geraldine, speaking about that, where do you create the magic or something special when there's a festival or a client? Can you replicate every time something special? Is it worth it? How do you approach it?
How do you create magic every time?
Yes, or magic, or let's say a customized special experience. Because as Andras said, it's going to be difficult, or it was difficult just to put up a website and show the same live videos that all the other festivals. Do you need to create something special?
I think it's because a lot of it was done, well, last year, a lot of it was done out of sheer panic, some out of survival at the very beginning. Surprise to, you know, everyone's surprise, we realized that we were pretty crap at, we didn't know that many online video platform, you know, we were already in computers all day, but we're like, oh, online platform event, you know, they had been around for a while, but everyone kind of rushed to the same one. Some were really pricey. So I feel like the creativity that is also a part of an event organizer, and I think the magic of an in-person festival is the magic and creativity that the bands bring, but also the coherence of the lineup that the booker, programmer, creative director does, and also this festival or event team, what can they provide for their audience that they know, how are they going to make this experience special? And it's also a very creative part of the festival. And I do think it's possible to recreate magic every time, because I think creative industries are all about reinventing yourself constantly and showing up in different ways. And I hope that we're not done with new ways of doing things. Sometimes it's just about a little twitch. And I think most of the time, to me, it's about finding some kind of ways of doing things that just resonates with your identity as an event. And I think, as Andras say, you know, there is a lot of showcase festival out there, some old, some new, some big, some small. And they weren't necessarily all created for the same reasons with the same audience in mind. And I think as long as they stay true to themselves and they know what they want to favor through, then they'll find a way to connect with their audience that would make sense. And I don't think it needs to be like, again, like all big fireworks. It could be just a way to connect with your audience in a smaller way, making, you know, a personal connection with an artist through a different way than what it was before. I do think it's possible. I want to believe that the event industry is very creative, and it can reinvent itself and create just enough magic needed to kind of make it to the next event. It's all about wanting your audience to come back, you know.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Paul?
Yeah, no, it's just to add to that, what was being said before, also in like discovering bands and picking them off the basis of a video, when there's so many videos to watch, for example, there's still a large part, at least for me, is that gut instinct of the reaction to music, you know, how you perceive how something sounds and how you can instantly see it perhaps in your venue, where you can hear certain music and say, oh, that would be great for here, and it's not necessarily completely related to a video. I mean, the video might be amazing, but the music's not that great, and you like the video, but it stops there. I mean, there's certain bands that like OK Go, for example, have released amazing videos over the years, but I can't really remember the songs, which is unfortunate, I guess. But I remember the videos. I remember, you know, the various videos, which are amazing, but the songs didn't necessarily resonate with me. You know, to each their own. But that's one of the main points to me, and still to this day, where it's like the music resonates, and as a booker, you can clearly see, okay, this would be amazing in Luxembourg for my market, to use the terminology, and I can see this in our venue, and you know, a crowd of people going nuts over this, and that's that gut instinct that's still there, and all the statistics and all the stuff that go with it, that can be important, but they don't always relate to what you're doing in your market and your venue. Otherwise, country music over here would make sense, right?
Why wouldn't it?
Well, big numbers. They make huge numbers in the US, but yeah, it's we don't have the market for that kind of music yet.
A lot of the charm of a showcase festival is not just seeing the shows, but it's the beer after the show. It's the fact to be able to meet other people, to discover new people, or to see with somebody face to face and be discussing with them. Jana, did you have any experiences with the online festivals? Were there like one-on-one Zoom talks afterwards? Did it also happen, or are you just happy when the normal festivals come back again?
Honestly, I can't remember. I feel like the year has been a blur. I think one time someone messaged me, but I don't know. I'm like a really poor online communicator if you're not sending me an email. Like I find like messaging really difficult to keep going. So I like way rather, I think also the nice thing about in-person things is you can have like one quick chat and then you'll run into them again in the hallway and then you can like restart that conversation. A lot of times if you like end a conversation online, there's no real need to pick it up again because you don't have something that reminds you to continue that conversation. But one time me and Bartleby Delicate, we watched like the Amplify LX video together, like that whole showcase. So that was like the most maybe interaction I had, but maybe I'm just like not well versed in using these online platforms as well as I should be. But yeah.
Zach, how do you see that most of your work is making connections, is bringing people together and making people work together? Was that difficult over the last period of time, or was it just game as usual?
Yeah, it's been rather interesting. I always see like, I've seen like the pandemic as like the great like equalizer in a way with the whole music industry. You know, there's like, you know, perhaps like super high profile bookers or people in the industry that you would maybe never have gotten the opportunity to talk to that actually found myself, you know, having some really nice, meaningful discussions. Whether it made sense for any of the artists that we're working with at that moment in time, I don't know, but it was actually quite cool. And I think, you know, you've seen like the music industry really start to diversify what they're doing. Booking agents start to talk to like radio stations, you know, about you know, that sort of thing. So that was kind of cool. I think on the networking side, it's still rather difficult to make meaningful connections over Zoom. Nothing obviously like replaces having a beer in a casual setting at a festival. Like that's when really like I think the proper, you know, like when proper deals happen, you know. So I really miss that in-person connection. But
absolutely. One thing we obviously have to talk about is, yes, we love to travel and meet these people, but there's also an environmental question that is going on. Is it going to be still, are we going to go back to where we were and people traveling to all of the showcase festivals, or will you guys reduce your traveling and just maybe pick and choose, and the other ones you're going to do it over Zoom? Luca?
I mean, I've not been a crazy traveler these last years, so I don't know if it applies to me. I went to 1 or 2 showcase festivals a year. So I don't think I'm going to reduce that. I guess I'm more prone to cutting down more in my private life on traveling and stuff like that. Or I have these last years reduced that part, but I'm not a person going to 10 showcase festivals a year anyway. Also because of lack of resources, you know.
But
can't
you
do
know,
that if you're in private.
you know that there are some people out there whose jobs it was only to do that.
Yeah, of course.
Andras, how do you see that? Is there going to be an evolution? Are there going to be maybe less, let's say, professional industry people and more artists, or how can we balance that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like in my case, I used to do like 10, 12 showcase festivals a year, or similar conferences, festivals, and others. And yeah, it takes a toll on your life. Of course, you have to. It's part of what you are and what you do and how you live. And I'm always asking myself, why are there not more trains than planes in Europe? Because I would prefer to just go on the train and work on the computer without all the plane hassle. But I think it's not only the environment we have to take care of, but mental health as well. And I think like festivals, like showcase festivals with conferences, take a very big toll on a person because it's like 3 4 days, and it's like concerts at night, conference through the whole day, meeting, networking, so much socializing, trying to get your focus on. And now we can see that like panels can work very well online as well. So why not reduce the number of panels? You still want the people at the event, but it's nicer if they have time just to talk to each other, to enjoy life, to go to the city and see what's up, not just to chase people around and go to all the conferences. And we can do like Zoom conferences during the year, for example.
Yes.
And the other thing I'm thinking about is, like in my opinion, there in some way there is too many showcase festivals, in the sense that like you can use every showcase festival in your advantage. But I would say if we would focus on less events, but we could make them like stronger, it would be easier for everyone. It of course depends on your goals. So for me, it's very thrilling to go maybe east or to Central Europe, not just to the Western Europe. And there's less events, so it's very important for me to go there when we have the opportunity. But yeah, with the World Wide Web, everything is a bit more connected.
Geraldine, do you think Anders was talking about it, maybe like this hybrid solution that some part of the festival will stay online or can be held online, and the rest is present? How do you see it?
For the conference, but I think it will depend on the event, but I agree with most of what you said. I think for environmental reason, difficult word, things has to change. I think personally, I will reduce the number of planes that I will take and try and, as Anders said, take trains wherever possible, but it's much more a commitment. I think instead of doing 2 days at a festival, if it takes me 1 day in a train to get there, I'll probably like stay in town and have meetings outside of the festival. And this is exactly the reason why I'm launching what I'm launching right now, is because I think we need Showcase Festival to see the bands live, and we need Showcase Festival to connect with humans. But to me, when it comes to doing business and getting to know the people, I think that you can do a lot in preparation. And that's what my platform is about, is before you need to, it's all about strategy. As Anders says, like, you don't need to do all of the festivals. You need to first have a strategy, research what market you want to get into, discover things about this market, meet some people online about this market. And then when you have all of these cards in hand, you go to the event and you make the most of this connection that you started before. You need to do your homework before you get there. And I think we were all very excited to go to new cities and discover town, but now we've reclaimed some of our lives and our time, some family life, some work-life balance. And I think hopefully this is where what we will continue to do, to keep this balance, because there is a reason, why so many Showcase Festival is full of very young people. Because when you become a parent, when you start to have different responsibilities, it's much harder. So I'm hoping that the music industry as an industry will be more inclusive by keeping some elements online, and will still allow some kind of hybrid for certain activities that are good for online collaborations. And I'm hoping, one of the things that I never really worked on, but I'm hoping that the Showcase Festivals will do, is more artistic collaborations and how they can continue to do the online. Like I had an artist who did an online songwriting camp last year as an off from Viperbahn Festival event. And that was really interesting for the artist involved. And I'm really looking forward to see different types of artistic collaboration that again could make it that there is more ground to work with before the artist goes on tour, and then when they go somewhere they can play more dates, do more shows, have more of an impact than just the one date.
To wrap things up, you said it, it's about the artists. And this is why we have showcase festivals. This is why we gather, is to develop artists and to help them develop themselves. I'm going to ask you guys just one after the other, maybe in 2 or 3 sentences. What do you think will help artists now in the next months and the next year? Where do we need to go? What is happening so we can really, again, develop artists? Maybe starting with you, Andras.
The
Pressure.
top
Sorry.
question. Okay. I think one way is less shows, more bigger fees. So what I'm seeing is a lot of venues try to do loads of shows now, but I think it would be better to give artists like bigger or proper fees than do all of the shows. And then copyright, like streaming and everything. We're saying that it's broken, and I guess it is, and just like finding the ways that the future will be nicer to artists in this sense as well.
Awesome. Paul?
I would say, I know for me, as I said before, it's really about the actual music, that creative side of things. And you bring out good music and you will find a way to connect to your audience using all the mediums that we have today. It's a lot of extra work, online, digital. It can be a hassle at times, as Jana said. Messaging is fun, a lot of fun, but it's for me, it's essentially down to the music and getting that out to as many people as possible, because that's how you will find your audience and you will find your way in this industry.
Zach?
Yeah, I'm really glad that Jana's here because you know, she she released, for those who don't know, released her first single in January of last year, and then of course the pandemic happened in March, and she was never able to play a live show for any professional, but she managed to still like tell a story and create great music, and that connected with audiences, and it connected to professionals, and as a result, she has like booking agents that have signed her in the middle of a pandemic without ever seeing her perform. So I really do think that storytelling, and like Paul said, having great music is just super important, regardless of whether you can play live or not.
Jana, how do you see it as an artist?
I think just strengthening community more, like encouraging more collaboration. Also, like with all this copyright stuff, I think the more we build this community to be like really connected and just supporting each other, the more we can work to change things that are like just not working. So I would say just continuing to build like a healthy artist community, as well as the people who work on the business side of music.
Amazing. Geraldine?
I totally agree with Jana. I think artistic collaborations, and whether I think it's really cool. I mean, it's my job. I love it to like try and do things for artists. I think that artist-led collaboration, I think there's probably a lot of cool things coming from that angle. And I hope that the music business people can kind of support them in developing things that works for them. But my advice for artists would be an audience development and engagement. Like, know your fans, get in touch with your fan, know what they like, what they don't like, talk to them, email them, message them, make sure that you have the data that you need to connect with them. Like, ask for people's email address, build a mailing list. I know it's 2021, but Clubhouse will go away, TikTok will go away, your email will not change for the next 10 years probably, until we get rid of email maybe. So like, make sure that you talk to them, because I think people come to music in bad times, and they did a lot in the pandemic, and I know it was a difficult time for many, including many artists, but I think I would have loved to like receive more news from the artists that I cared for last year, and the one that I did, I was really happy that they did, and that they connect, and they were kind of, we're in it together, and you need to have this relationship. If you can't go and say hi at the bar at the end of the gig, then maybe try to work on that element of online communication with your fans.
Awesome. Luca.
Yeah, it's really difficult, but all of what you all said really resonates with me. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I feel also, like Geraldine said, I think that people also have changed their perception of time through the pandemic and how they do their day and manage their day. And I think we can somehow expect that people will have less time maybe allocating to different things, trying to get a little bit out of this super fast running world. Maybe, who knows, maybe not. But also, as Andras said, for us at Good Event, it will be the same. We'll make less shows, better fees, higher prices. And for the artists, yeah, it will be more difficult, I guess. If the number of artists doesn't go down, then it will be tougher to get through. And for me, the only way to get through, or the most important aspect, is always the content, the art itself, and getting and being really creative on the core, and not on things that are not really substantial. Of course, you need to keep your mailing list and you need to do your homework and stuff, but not forget the essential. And yeah, that would be my thing.
And for me, it's the perfect ending. Thank you very much, Luca. Thank you very much to all of the others. It was a pleasure being here with you guys and talking with you. And I hope that we'll soon all meet for like real one-to-one conversations and the beer, hopefully. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
For having us.